because it will. Aviv, it's yours. Aviv, you need to unmute, though.
That's right. Thank you, Avi, for the invitation, for organizing these sessions, and hi everyone. I already recognize some of you, so it feels good to be with you. I'm in Jerusalem. For those who don't know me, maybe I'll say a few words about myself and then try to describe some of the things that I'm part of a group that we are doing. So I'm Aviv, I'm Israeli. I live in Jerusalem, as I said. And my background is combined of Dharma practice, martial arts. I work for a human rights NGO. And quite a few years ago, together with a few other friends, we felt it was very important to bring together Dharma practice and activism, namely for us, what was and is most important is peace work or anti-occupation work. I feel most comfortable describing what we do as solidarity, Israeli-Palestinian solidarity. So we are a small group, a modest group of Israelis, actually, many of us practitioners, not only practitioners, that engage in solidarity with Palestinian communities, and we are guided by Dharma practice, and we feel that what we are doing is an expression of Dharma practice. We've been doing it for some 15 years, and as I'm sure you know, things have been getting worse and worse over the years, and now they're just a catastrophe. So of course, as you know, we are meeting today, the total destruction of Gaza is happening day by day. As far as the information that we are receiving here locally, famine is breaking out in Gaza. Not that before people could easily find food, but it's even worse than before. This morning, the Israeli army decided to expand areas that it is attacking to another city that until today there wasn't a military operation there. And of course, you know, the numbers of deaths are in the Gaza Strip are staggering. Then while the attention is focused there, every day, regularly, there are vicious, violent attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank. They will be either initiated by Israeli civilians. A mob of dozens of Israelis will target, usually it's a small Palestinian village, small and therefore more vulnerable. Target meaning it can be setting fire to homes, vandalizing homes, attacking people. If the Palestinians in the attacked community try to defend themselves, that is an excuse for shooting at them and hence killing Palestinians. And of course, the and the Israeli army also takes part in its own campaigns against the Palestinian population. And then inside the state of Israel proper, which is relatively calm. If you happen to walk in the street in an Israeli city, it feels quite normal. Streets are bustling. The coffee shops are full. Right now in Jerusalem, there's a film festival going on. It's as if everything is normal. People know it's not, and many of us are walking with a lot of heaviness and dread. But from the outside, it doesn't look like that. And also in our so-called normal Israeli cities, Palestinians can be regularly attacked. Just to mention a few instances, a prominent Palestinian MK, member of the Knesset, was speaking at a demonstration. He was attacked by a mob. His car was vandalized. There were hardly any arrests. Those who were arrested were quickly released. Tonight or last week, in Jerusalem, a Palestinian bus driver was attacked by some 20 Israeli men. He was severely beaten. And 2 nights ago, in a commercial center not far from where I live, Palestinian workers were attacked by just arbitrary Israelis. So that's the situation we are at. People like myself, on the one hand, there is tremendous rage and sadness, and on the other hand, very futile attempts at protest demonstrations, certainly at somehow stopping this violence. So that's I don't know. That's as a background, and I imagine that many of you, if not all of you, are following the news. So I want to focus on the things that our small group is doing. And so over the years, it's now 15, 16 years, we have been working with 2 Palestinian communities. One of them is very close to where I live in Jerusalem. It's a small village by the name of Walaje. It's an agricultural village. Many of on the one hand, the people are farmers. On the other hand, with modernization and with the style of life changing, and with also a lot of takeover of lands, which don't allow really people to make don't allow Palestinians to make a proper living of their lands. People have turned to other forms of making a living. The generation of people who are maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they would be, let's say, like gardeners or construction workers and so on. Something that is very beautiful that has been happening over the last decade is that the younger generation, many of them, and the majority, and especially young women, go to university. So you have this change, generational change in Palestinian society in general, but certainly in Al-Walaje, that parents who did not go to university, and many of them maybe even didn't complete 12 years of school. They make a lot of effort and to make sure that their children, if they want, can go to university. And our connection with the village is very much centered on the agriculture that is actually like farming and agricultural villages were something very characteristic of the Jerusalem area a century ago. And on the one hand, very beautiful. And also, basically, it's the heritage of this land. This way of life goes back thousands of years. And over the last century, in the area of Jerusalem, it has all but disappeared. In 1948, with the Nakba, with the war between the Jewish community and the Palestinians, and the establishment of the State of Israel, part of it, the central part of it, was the uprooting of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, the wiping out of hundreds of Palestinian villages. In the area of Jerusalem, this meant about 40 Palestinian villages that were uprooted. Then in 1967, with the Israeli occupation of the West Bank, so again, a takeover of lands of the villages, of agricultural villages, and so on. There was also a process of modernization, of urbanization, that regardless, if we would take the time to speak about it, it has maybe positive sides and negative sides, but that also contributed to villages just turning into neighborhoods, into parts of cities. Walaje is basically the last remaining community in the area of Jerusalem that is still preserving this way of life of an agricultural community that is living among its lands. And it's amazing. The way it looks, it's just so beautiful. You have these homes that are nestled in agricultural terraces, olive groves, vegetable plots, which are watered from water by natural springs. And so on. It's really one of the most beautiful places in the Jerusalem area. And then also there's a lot of heritage and very, very special knowledge about traditional agriculture. The agriculture there in Walaje until today is not industrialized, so they keep the knowledge and the ways of working of their ancestors. And also people, when they work their lands, they can tell you stories, and they walk with the knowledge of when they were children and their parents or grandparents were cultivating the same plot of land. So it's very special, very rich. And in other circumstances, this of course would be regarded as a national treasure, as a very important form of heritage of the people who live in the land, of the land itself and its history. On control of land, then Palestinian agriculture is targeted, and the right of Palestinians to their land is always undermined. So Walaje has been suffering from basically taking over of land, taking over of springs and of land for the benefit of Israelis like myself, like we. Israelis in Jerusalem are invited to join, to recreate in nature on Al-Walaja land. And it's very, very easy to do it. It's like for an Israeli to come and have a nice day at the pool of a spring, or a picnic in an olive grove, without really knowing what's taking place, like that this is actually stolen land, and that the people from whom it is stolen are living very nearby, maybe a few minutes walk, and that they are very much suffering because they're deprived of their source of living, they're uprooted from their roots of heritage, and because the means of oppression, the ways of oppression continue on and on and on. So it's not that I will not, like, people are responsible, Israelis are responsible, we should know what's being done, but everything is designed in a way that makes it easy for us to close our eyes, to remain ignorant, to be blind. So one of our purposes in our group is to help people open their eyes. It's not at all easy, of course. It's not that people really want to come to grips with this reality. But we bring or we invite Israelis to visit the village, to work with the farmers, to buy produce from village farmers and their families, and many things like that. Maybe just a small example. About maybe 10 months ago, a student from an arts academy joined us and started visiting the village regularly with us. And then it chose the village as the focus of his, I don't know how you call it, a graduation project from the arts academy. And he just presented it last week, a few days ago, and it was very moving. And it, of course, there was an audience there, and the audience was made of. There were in the audience there were university professors, and how do you say, artists, and so on. So people who, if they are impacted, if they choose or allow themselves to be impacted, they can spread the message further. And it's something, on the one hand, it's something very, very small, and I will soon come to the fact that it's far from enough to make a change. But it really, really shows that on the one hand, as I said, it's so easy to close your eyes and not to care and not to know. And on the other hand, it also doesn't take much for you to care. And once someone like this student, Jonathan, was, you can say, curious enough and sensitive enough and brave enough to care, then he really went through a process that revealed the beauty of the place, its of Walaje, the history, all the special qualities of people who live in the village, and it's something that that's very, on the one hand, it's very heart opening for Israelis to go through, to really cross the barriers between us and Palestinians, not to view them through all kinds of stereotypes, basically racist stereotypes of supremacy, and to really discover what the possibility for human connection with people in Walaje. So it's at the same time it's challenging and also very, very, very healing, especially in these days when what the dominant emotions are either fear and hatred or despair, jadedness, and the ability Israelis and Palestinians to have close relationships and to care about each other, to know each other, to do things together, is something that for me and for us in our group, something very, very precious and very healing. And then of course it begs the question, okay, so how like does it matter at all? Okay, so we feel what we feel, but the people in Walaje, like how do their lives look? And the oppression is terrible. And Walaje, there's weekly raids by the army who break into homes and basically terrorized families. There's no other word for it. You cannot even make an excuse like why, for what purpose the army is doing it. Terribly, a month ago, in one of these raids, a young man, 22 years old, was shot to death by soldiers. So on the one hand, our ability is very, very small. On the other hand, everything that is being done counts, and some of it is the way we protect farmers in lands which are threatened, or they're threatened by soldiers, or prevented from reaching on their own. Another thing is the way that I mentioned the agricultural produce of Walaje, which we sell, which is a very important source of income for several families. And a few other ways like that. Also work to stop home demolitions, which is another big thing that maybe I will not get into, but for people to lose their homes, you can imagine how devastating that is. And this is another area where we are having some impact. And so this is it's something very, I wouldn't say paradoxical, but very challenging if you look at the scope of injustice, the scope of violence and oppression and injustice, and you ask yourself, how am I going to stop it? Then you might give up. You might raise your hands and say, it's too big. There's no way that I can really do anything about it. And it's true. None of us have been able to stop these policies. On the other hand, as I tried to describe, the engagement of people, the solidarity, the care, does affect people's lives and brings significant outcomes. The other community is more north, is less close to Jerusalem. It's a village by the name of Deir Istia. There's nothing special about these villages. They're not especially well known, and everything that I'm telling you about them could be told about numerous other villages in the West Bank. But these are the communities we are engaging with, we are in solidarity with. And Deir Istia, the pride, there are maybe two central issues where the Deir Istia community prides itself. One is the education. It's the first village in that area of the West Bank where there was a school about 150 years ago. And ever since, the rate of education is very high, and many people in the village have academic degrees, or even they teach in universities, and so on. And the other source of pride is the huge areas of olive groves. It's one of the biggest villages in the West Bank in terms of olive produce. And as I mentioned, agricultural activity is targeted by the Israeli authorities. And on Deir Istia lands, there are today what we call two shepherding outposts, which of all the forms of violence, not by the army. Everything is state sponsored, but violence that is not directly by the army, but by Israeli civilians, what we would call settlers. The shepherding outposts are probably the worst kind, because they are set up with the intention to violently expel Palestinian farmers and shepherds from huge areas. So over the last 3-4 years, two such shepherding outposts were set up. And there's also settlements in the area. And since October 7th, huge areas of olive groves, which I mentioned how important they are in the identity and also in the income of the Deir Istia community, have become closed to their landowners, to the farmers in Deir Istia and the families who own them and who planted the trees or cultivate them. Maybe their ancestors planted the trees and they cultivate them and make a living of them, and so on. Maybe to describe this, the olive harvest season, which is very special time in Palestinian society, usually begins in October. So October 7th, 2023, just under 2 years ago, was the Hamas attack and the massacre in the Israeli towns in the south took place just as the olive harvest season was about to begin. And of course, there was a very strong retaliation by the army, not only towards the Gaza Strip, but there was at the beginning this tremendous anxiety in Israel that Palestinian attacks can happen anywhere. That it's gonna, just as it happened from Gaza, it's gonna take place in the West Bank. So there was a very aggressive military behavior and a lot of apprehension in the settlements, and this was used to justify dispelling Palestinians from their lands, from their olive groves. We were organizing in advance to join olive harvests, and October 7th happened, and we had to decide what to do. Is it dangerous for us? Who knows what Palestinian violence there will be, what settler violence it will be, how violent the Israeli army will be. Can we go and do it? We on the one hand we were cautious, and we canceled the first day of our joining the harvest. On the other hand, these relationships cultivated over 15 years are very, very strong. And we had no doubt. Yeah, we knew that in a time of crisis like this, we have to be there in Deir Istia. So we went as a small group, not with all the participants who signed up. We went as a small group to check. And the day ended with soldiers raising their gun, pointing their guns at me, and they didn't fire. But that was the situation on that day. They were shooting at Palestinian teenagers in the village, and the teenagers were masked and they were burning tires and were throwing stones. And we were there in between, and luckily none of them targeted us. But still, we understood that it's important that we be there and that it is possible to join the harvest, and very, very necessary because the farmers, it will be very difficult for the farmers to harvest their olives. So since then, over the past, it's now 21 months, we have been going with farmers to the olive groves as we have been going before, but now the access was restricted and actually was prohibited. So when farmers would go alone, they would be fired at by either soldiers or settlers. They would be beaten up. Their equipment would be stolen time and again. So at least when we were with them, almost all the time, there wasn't this kind of violence. So Israeli presence served to restrain some of the violence. But Israeli soldiers would quickly come, sometimes after an hour, sometimes after 3 hours, and order us to leave, say that we and the Palestinian farmers were not allowed to be in the area. And we were not in a position to do any disobedience. It would not lead to anywhere I don't know of value. But on the one hand, the farmers were very, very determined, despite the danger and despite the fact that supposedly wasn't achieving anything. They insisted week after week, anytime that we could join them, to go to their olive groves, and we did the best we can to do it. So there was a weekly presence in those agricultural lands. We were able to document to video all the times that soldiers would come and order us to go, and we would not easily obey. We would challenge them, and so on. And this was videoed. And finally, with the help of an exceptional lawyer, in April, so it's just 3 months ago, these expulsions stopped. Okay, like officially, the lawyer received a notice that the expulsions would stop, and since then, especially when we accompany the farmers, it's more peaceful, and often they are also able to go there on their own. And this is also something a very teaching experience that we were feeling for such a long time, for more than a year, that it was very frustrating. It's like, what are we doing? Like, we're going and we're being pushed out, and and it's not achieving anything, and what's the use, and so on. So there had to be like a lot of patience and a lot of determination, without any illusion that we have the power to overcome this this violence. And then suddenly it happened. Suddenly the change came. For both us and our partners in Deir Istia, it brought us closer than ever. Experiencing like this, the mutual care, the determination, also feeling the frustration together. So again, in this very dark time of Israelis and Palestinians view each other in the worst possible ways. There is this group of Israelis, which thankfully I belong to, and this Palestinian community, who the situation, the relationship is completely different. And maybe just to give one last example, towards May, one of the farmer approached us and said, look, I need to plow my olive grove, and plowing the grove takes 3 days, and we need to do it consecutively, like day after day. And I can't do it on my own because I will be expelled. I need you to be with me for 3 consecutive days. And we didn't know what to say because, we were all volunteers. We have our day jobs. How can we come for 3 consecutive days? And I looked at the calendar, and ironically, the Israeli Independence Day was on the 1st of May, on a Thursday. And they said, okay, we have a holiday on Thursday, and Friday and Saturday are all the holidays in Israel, so the weekend in Israel, so we can come for 3 days, Thursday, Friday, weekend, and Saturday, and we can stay and sleep in the village. He said, oh, a group of Israelis, where we're going to stay and sleep in a Palestinian village. And we checked, we asked people in the community what they thought about it, and they said sure. They were very happy for the idea. And we asked our folks what they thought about it, and there was a lot of enthusiasm. And again, this I don't know how it sounds to you, but if I were speaking to an Israeli audience or to a Palestinian audience, it would sound very ludicrous, like no way that Israelis would feel safe to be in a Palestinian village, no way that Palestinians would accept a group of Israelis in their village. And we decided, we took for us, what we did on Israeli Independence Day was be in Deir Istia, in this with this community that is so dear to us, and devote our time and our energy for solidarity with the people in the community. We were accepted in such a beautiful way. It was again, it's people that I know for 15 years, and I have very close relationships with them. Even for me, it touched me so deeply, the things that took place there, both for our participants, the Israelis, and the Palestinian hosts. There was a lot of generosity. There was a lot of people who were willing to be vulnerable. A very, I already said the word, a very healing experience. And yet again, so I described, both you can call it a success, the ability to protect farmers and get them to return to their lands, and what happens on the human level, the bonds and the intimacy and the solidarity. everything is overshadowed, everything is always threatened, not only because of the devastating things that Israel is doing in the Gaza Strip or elsewhere in the West Bank, but because everything feels on, what's the term in English, on borrowed time. Like it's just a matter of time until Deir Istia will be targeted more severely than it is. And then what will we do? How will, like when there is either an army, there were in this period army raids on the village and we intervened in the ways that we could. But if it's something more serious, and if Israeli civilians, Israeli settlers decide to send one of their mobs to torch homes in the village or to shoot at residents, and so on and so on. Like what what will happen when this starts? What will we be able to do, and so on. So of course, for Palestinians, everyone feels unsafe, threatened. The future is very, very uncertain. And also for us as people who engage and who care and who are were very what's the word, agonized by what our country is doing, and still it is our country, it is our society, we are part of it. That's where things are, and we don't know what will happen next week, next month, maybe tomorrow. So these are some of the things that are happening. I imagine you can, I think you can imagine how much Dharma practice is relevant here for our ability to navigate, like to make decisions, to take care of ourselves, to deal with the uncertainty, with the anxiety, with the rage, with the sadness. And I think first and foremost, the fact that what's most important for us are human beings and the human relationships and solidarity, which is so much affected by policy and by state violence. And this is the field where we are operating and where we try to realize things like right understanding and right action and so on. One part of it, which usually is very interesting for people, I'm not sure it's the most important thing, is that of course we encounter also, if I described how close the relationships with Palestinians are, we encounter also our so-called rivals, be them settlers who are not happy with what we do and we are not happy with what they do, be them soldiers, that automatically, yeah, it's very, very antagonistic. We meet each other with all the views that come, like we are automatically whatever, supporters of terrorists and self-hating Jews and so on. Like at best we are foolish and naive, and at worst we are traitors and an inner threat. And of course, for us also, we have our stereotypes regarding the settlers, their racism, their being violent, the soldiers that are carrying out basically crimes day by day. So this is also a challenge for us, how to deal with the animosity that with which we are being targeted, how to deal with fear, and also, of course, how to free ourselves of maybe our inner aggression, like our dislike or our ideas against the perpetrators of the injustice that we know it is happening. So that's happening also. Yeah, maybe I will stop here. There's much more to say, but maybe if there are questions or comments, please.
Linda bowing in. Thank you so much. A description of your relationship over time makes it so much clearer, the so-called issues, because you describe them in a very personal relationship way, and connection to the earth. I think my question is, how can we help? And thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, and thank you for this question. I think I actually reached out to Avi and said, "Hey, can I meet you again? Can I meet this group again?" Because I very much feel the need for help, and I must say that over the years, for us as a group, the priority was always how, how can we encourage more Israelis to open their eyes and to be involved. And we were not so interested in reaching out to people from abroad. Okay, we felt it is the responsibility of Israelis and Palestinians to deal with our issues, our problems, our conflict. But it's very clear that that on our own we are not able to, and that the help is very, very much needed. So I believe that there are two main areas. And one is the policy in the United States, which I know I'm not able to impact Israeli policy. So it's not that I have any illusions that someone in another country can necessarily impact their country's policy. But Israel, one, is very, very dependent on external support and certainly on American support. Which makes it also very susceptible to pressure that it needs to stop what it's doing. And from what I understand, this is a sensitive issue because criticism of Israel immediately gets categorized as anti-Semitism or something that is whatever. And I must tell you that it is not at all so. Okay, I mean there is really no. I mean what my government is doing, and it's more than my government. What the Israeli society is mobilized to do is one of the horrendous crimes of this century, and it's a destruction. It's a destruction of a people, destruction of human lives. There's no excuse for it. Whatever the security concerns and the right of Jews for a state and all these things, the one doesn't necessitate the other, and certainly doesn't justify the other. So one thing I can really say, don't hesitate in the opportunities you have to raise your voice, to act, and so on. Like all the Israel for its own good needs to be stopped. And there's no doubt about it. The other thing, which is on the one hand, it's much more specific. So On the one hand, it will not change the big picture. On the other hand, right now people are very, very much suffering, and they need our help, our intervention. And I think for people from abroad, maybe I don't know the word easy, but what's most accessible is financial support. And in the communities we are in touch with, the economic distress and the needs are like never they were before. Basically, one of the things that the Israeli government has been doing is to target the Palestinian economy in the West Bank. It's intentional. It's because there are a big parts of the Israeli government actually want to do in the West Bank what they have been doing in Gaza, and for that they need to destabilize the situation and to get more unrest and more violence, and this will supposedly justify even more military action. So targeting the economy, the Palestinian economy, is seen as a way to destabilize things. And so Israel has been sanctioning the Palestinian Authority financially. It's on the verge of economic collapse. It's been preventing from about 100,000 Palestinian workers to go to work in Israel since October 7th. The excuse is security reasons, but the fact is that 100,000 Palestinian families, it's about 20% of the West Bank population, have lost their source of living, have been without a work for 21 months. So I'm sure you can imagine what it means.
In a few minutes.
I'm sure you can imagine the impact, but currently the needs that we met, that people have asked us, and Avi has already graciously sent it out on an email, are families that need help to pay tuition fees in university for their children. Actually, usually it's daughters that have just graduated from high school and want to go to study in university. There is a family that contacted us last week, saying that in the court, like, they've been able to postpone the demolition of their home, but they need to deposit a huge sum of money for actually the postponement to be in place. Like, it's conditioned on a deposit of money, and they don't have the money. And then there's the families who, without work, they're even struggling just to bring food home. And we have been trying to address these needs throughout the last 20 months. And anyone who feels that it's something they want to take part in, then in the email that Avi sent out, there's my PayPal account, and we will be very, very grateful for any such help. And then in longer term, like, we can think of specific issues like access to land and things like that, that if we're able to raise some kind of campaign around it, then maybe attention from abroad can also help.
I have a question, Jerome Bellingman. I talked to my brother just Saturday night. His family, thank God, is all doing quite well. But I'm concerned about him because he seems to think that the only way to solve the problem with Gaza and the war is to get the hostages out, and that the war would end if that happened. Is he having a right view about this, or is his thought limited?
The Israeli hostages are a huge trauma for Israeli society. And I think it doesn't need any explanation. Currently, there are 50 Israeli hostages that soon they will be 2 years, not only in hostage, but in terrible conditions. Of these 50, some are dead, like about half, a bit more than half are dead, and some are alive in a very difficult situation, terrible situation. In the Gaza Strip, there are 2 million Palestinians. And I think something very important before any practical consideration is a human being is a human being. Israelis are not more important than Palestinians, and vice versa. And the 50 Israeli lives cannot become the only issue. Okay, now luckily, so this is like more in principle, like where the attention is. And again, as an Israeli, no one needs to explain to me what a crime the taking of hostages is, and their treatment, and that they must be released. The good thing is that it doesn't have to, it's not one at the expense of the other. So Hamas has made it very clear that what its conditions for the release of hostages are. The conditions are an end to the Israeli army pulls out of the Gaza Strip. Okay, and Israel is not willing to accept it. And we can go to a whole discussion of all the reasons and all the excuses, and so on. But for me, it's very clear who that the issue can be resolved. The hostages can be released. Gaza needs to be. I mean, it was destroyed. We have no idea how to make it livable again, and it was destroyed by Israel. And it's the responsibility of Israel. And many Israelis, in order to deflect our responsibility from what we have done, what we chose to do, we prefer to focus on Hamas and on the hostages. But if it's really about releasing of the hostages, it's very much possible. Just agree to take the Israeli army out. Basically, maybe I'll say a few more words about this. It's more political analysis, but it's probably interesting. The occupation and the apartheid were there before October 7th. And for us Israelis, it was quite a comfortable situation. We were not challenged. Israel was not challenged by the international community. The Palestinians were very weak and unable to challenge the Israeli army and the Israeli state, not by political means, not by violent means, not by terrorism, not by anything. And in Israeli society, there was this debate: what are we going to do? Are we going to annex the Palestinian territories? Are we going to maybe withdraw and try to have peace with Palestinians? And the Israeli society basically decided that annexing has its price, and withdrawing has its price. Peace has its price, actually. And what we would really like to do is to keep the situation as it is, to keep apartheid as it is, and it received a name. It was called in Hebrew minimizing the conflict, and that was the prevailing policy, be it Netanyahu or the opposition to Netanyahu, Yair Lapid. Everyone was about that. Like, things can just go on, and this of course, in an horrendous way, it collapsed on October 7th. And once it collapsed, Israeli society is now faced with two choices, because this illusion that apartheid can just continue forever, this illusion broke. And if apartheid cannot continue forever, then we just have two choices. One is to make peace, to arrive at an agreement with the Palestinians. And if this is what we want to do, then of course what Israel is doing in Gaza needs to end. You don't, yeah. And the other option is to annihilate Palestinian presence from the river to the sea, be it by ethnic cleansing, be it by genocide. Okay, there is basically these are the two choices. There is no other way. Okay, and we have been evading this truth for so many years, pretending that things can just go on and on and on. Okay, and people can make up all kinds of can give all kinds of reasons. I wanted to say excuses, but reasons. You know, it's very making peace was very complicated before October 7th, and it certainly become just only more difficult after October 7th and after what Israel has been doing in Gaza and in the West Bank for the last 20 months. It's a formidable task, but if we don't take it on, the meaning is that we are going to, as I said, we're going to do the genocide. Maybe it's happening already in the Gaza Strip. We're going to do it in the West Bank. Maybe we do it inside Israel as well. So basically, if we don't want to do it, Israel must be stopped and must be forced to give Palestinians their liberty, and then have peace.
Thank you. That was really well spoken. I wish I could convey that to my brother. Thank you.
This is Paul bowing in. Aviv, I can't tell you how much your words are helping my heart. I'm Jewish. My background is Jewish. And I have a tendency to be very cynical and feel very upset by what Israel is doing, and to generalize, to think that Israelis do not care. And when I hear the words from your heart, how much you care, it is so healing for me and so helpful. So I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for the courage you have, your courage and your compassion and your compassionate action, and those of your fellows who are doing this work. It means so much to me. And I see the same thing in our society, this willingness to cover one's eyes and not face the truth of what our government and what our tax dollars are supporting. And it pains me deeply. And I've been trying to convey that to my grandchildren as compassionate a way as I can, because they have beautiful lives and they don't need to face this grief. They don't see the need, and yet they really do need to be full human beings.
Adult grandchildren.
They're adult grandchildren, yes. So very happy to support your effort financially to the extent I'm able. And it's just thank you so much for the work you're doing. really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And of course, I remember you and Beverly from, previous sessions here with in this circle and other circles. So I really feel your support. For us in Israel, people like myself who are so appalled from what our state is doing. I'm saying it, in response to what you are saying. Myself, and I know many of my friends, we constantly feel that what we are doing is not enough. Not only in the sense that factually it's not enough, it's going on, but that we have failed to rise up to the challenge. That we have not done enough, and we know that this is for the rest of our lives. That what the state of Israel and the Israeli society are choosing to do is something that will mark personally my and our lives for the years to come, and the whole of the Israeli society. And we will have to deal with that.
Jorge from Mexico bowing in. Aviv, I am really touched and moved. And I cannot stop thinking about this situation where how easily we, if we are not directly suffering, can ignore, really make my mind just close any view, any contact with those who are suffering, even if they are very close to us. And I remember when I was a child, I'm also Jewish, that I remember people saying, my Jewish friends, how could the Germans ignore, or the Polish people ignore all the suffering in the concentration camps? And I think this is kind of very sad, but human ability we have to just ignore. And at the same time, I'm thinking in all these images, which at least I received from the person who kept Anna Frank's family hidden for a couple of years, or even this very, very nice film about Schindler's List. And you can say, okay, they were just a few hundred people saved from millions who were killed. But we all, in some way, remember and value these small, very brave acts. And for me, what you are doing is exactly the same. And I have some intuition of how difficult it is to be in the middle of the society where all the collective consciousness is going in one direction and you try to go in the other direction. It is incredibly challenging and difficult. And at the same time, you are being able to help one girl to go to the university, one family to keep going. And for me, it makes the whole difference. I share all what the other friends are saying. And so I hope we could support you and you could feel that you are not alone. And even one day, helping one person makes the world a different place. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Jorge. It's really heartwarming. And yeah, the connections and support and the having a network of support is, we feel today how important it is. And it's first and foremost, again, it's locally, it's the people that we are most in touch with, the Israelis and the Palestinians who work together and who care, manifest daily the mutual care. but yes, also support from people like yourselves. It's very, very valuable. And I can say that for me, through the years of activism, which was, it was about a struggle, about resistance, and about maybe also frustration with those who don't care. I very much appreciated the qualities of strength and of the ability to resist and to say no and to challenge. And in these difficult times, which maybe you'd think they invite us to 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 have these antagonist emotions, what I'm discovering is how important softness and care are, and how the ability to find happiness and beauty, even in these circumstances. And my circumstances are good. I have nothing to complain about personally. But when I'm with Palestinian friends and I know what they are going through, and I feel how huge, how big their heart is, and their ability to be joyful and to be generous and to be kind. So what I can say, one of the things that is very important for me, and I feel it is an important message, that in the face of so much violence and the loss of humanity, how important our human qualities, our kindness is, and that we nurturing it, each one of us nurturing it for themselves and as a community, as a sangha, as a group, as people, to nurture it together is so valuable.
So I'm wondering if this would be a good time for us to end. It is kind of late in Jerusalem, for one thing. So if there's anyone with anything urgent that they would like to express now before we end, I'll let you do that. Aviv, you've done the city of moving sideways. So, all right. I am aware that the way to donate is through a PayPal link that only works if you actually have a PayPal account. Unlike when you're with, say, you're going to a merchant and they will send you to a credit card. So that's a little bit unfortunate. We'll see if we can figure out another way to do that. In the meantime, if you would like to donate and you do not have your own PayPal account or a PayPal account in good standing or whatever, perhaps you can do it through someone else. So that's another option. But unfortunately, that's kind of the, because Engaged Dharma does not have exactly the appropriate bank accounts, etc. It's the usual organizational skills that other larger groups might have. That's just how it is. So we'll see what we can do to resolve that in the future. So, sorry, trying to describe this for ourselves. Oh, there will be, so Sister Shalom, there will be there is a recording, and I will, assuming Aviv says it's okay, I will put out the recording sometime this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And it looks like Beverly, did you have something you wanted to?
I wanted
Paul.
to say that if anyone really doesn't know how to donate, I'd be happy to take their donation in my PayPal account and donate for them. Beverly could put, I don't know how we want to do this. My email address in. People could contact me if they need to.
Okay. I'm going to type the email address in here,
Thank you.
and I guess I'll turn off the audio while I.
Although then to get the money to you is well, I guess people can do it by checks because as long as it's within the U.S. So it just offers in one more option, so that's fine. So, all right.
Okay.
If anyone else wants to make that offer as well, we could split the responsibility because it will be, taxable income.
So, Aviv, any last words before we end?
No, I feel that you really gave me an opportunity to say a lot of what's on my heart, and I thank you very much for the listening and now for feeling like the wish to support. And I really, really appreciate. I know these circles have been happening continuously for such a long time. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we'll listen to 3 sounds of the bell in order to end. So, thank you, Aviv. Thank you, everybody, for coming.